are in, with materials up here, if you want to take them, to keep along, to follow along. And then if you're interested in making a public statement later in the agenda, there's a sign-up sheet. And then if you are actually asking us to make a specific action as a commission, we have a form for you to make that request up there too. Thanks for joining us. Food's working itself out. If you guys wanted to peek at the minutes and the agenda. What the heck?
Hey, how's it going?
Please, yeah.
The only way to make this up is
Hi, I'm Suzanne. Nice to meet you.
like that food.
Hi.
Wow.
Doesn't smell too bad, does it? Or look too
Are you
bad.
saying you don't step up your soup?
They got two people that stepped.
I don't get the same fabric.
You show up and then they wander around like.
Okay, so welcome everyone to January 7th Human Rights Commission meeting. Happy New Year to everyone. I think everyone has the minutes. First thing we'd like to do is approval of the agenda and the minutes. Does anyone have?
Well, let's do one thing, if we do one thing at a time,
Yeah.
that probably would make some sense. So if we go into minutes and ask for any changes to minutes.
So, as far as passing the minutes, does anyone have any questions or concerns? Can we look over the minutes so that we can make a motion? Look at us. She said, look at us.
So I'll go ahead and move that the minutes are accepted as written.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? Ashley abstains.
So how do we do with that? Okay, so two abstentions, and was that was 5 yeses?
So that's the one.
6 yeses. Do you need to know who they were? Okay. Did it pass?
The motion passed.
Sorry?
Motion passed. Okay. Great, and the agenda, we have it, the one alteration we're going to do because we're starting late is to exercise 20 minutes out of what we have. So item number 7, leadership transition work and retreat planning, that was set for 30, we're gonna move that down to 20 minutes. And then number 11 was set for 15 minutes, we're gonna move that down to 5 minutes to recoup the 20 minutes that we are missing.
So, yeah, what we're trying to do is move to have committee reports be really, really brief anyway. So if you're doing a committee report, you might think about what is the commission as a whole really just need here, rather than a longer committee report.
Any questions about the agenda or anything there?
Sam, you asked for, do you have what you need? You made a specific request earlier through email with me.
I'm sorry.
Do you have what you need in terms of time for what you need to present?
I don't really have the agenda.
What do you have?
Yeah, I'm not sure where my name
Well, we've given you 10 minutes for review and recommendation of new members.
Okay.
You sent me an email asking for more time
The numbers?
for something.
Yeah, come back, can you come back to me?
Okay, I just wanna make sure you have enough time on the
Yeah,
agenda
yeah,
for it.
for this, yes, for the minutes.
So if you want more time, we should make sure it happens now.
Was there something else on there?
No, just need to gather my thoughts.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
So, we're gonna move that down then, just because that would be the next,
You want to do communications first?
agenda item, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, he wanted the agenda item to be moved?
Because he's working, he's,
That's the next thing we do. So,
Oh, I thought he just meant my request. Okay.
we'll just move it down. Keep going along.
Sam, I'm a little confused. You needed us to move this agenda item down later?
No,
Okay. So we can keep that agenda item where it is?
you want to do that now?
That's
Yeah,
now,
that's
that's why I
next.
said you want to.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. My apologies to the community, just for the. Thank you. So we need to,
Yep, that's.
we have recommendations of new members. Okay. Oh, thank you. Welcome. All right. Does everybody have a copy of the three applicants?
Yeah.
There's three.
We have two.
Yeah, there's Marcia, Suzanne, I think this is Audrey's here.
Oh,
I only have Marcia and Audrey, but I know some.
I don't have Martha and Suzanne.
Audrey's is there, is that?
Audrey's looks
So
different
she had-
because it's embedded, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Audrey's. And then,
Suzanne's actually.
so has everybody had a chance? Hopefully everybody's had a chance to review them.
Actually, Audrey doesn't know.
Oh, I know.
She's out.
Yeah.
Speak it up.
You didn't pick it up.
So we're not usually.
Keep that, because that's,
He has it as well.
it's a,
you picked it up.
it's not the resume. That's the.
That's all she said.
Who's on first?
Oh, boy.
Okay, so everybody have their copies? Okay, so. Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Okay.
After a warrant started.
Yes, so, as everyone knows, we had openings, so, and we had applicants, and we had an interview process. Alan and Diallo and I and Kofi sat in on some of the interviews. We interviewed 3 individuals, and we agreed on all 3. We still have openings, and we're hoping to have more interviews this month. We're still waiting to get some more applications as well to fit the needs of the committee. So I would like, I could go through, I think in the past, people, the chair has gone through and kind of talked about the person, but I would like to have Marcia and Suzanne come up. Can you come up to the table? And briefly, we have 20 minutes, right? 10 minutes?
You have 10.
10 minutes.
You have until, 4:30.
So I would like, first to welcome you to Human Rights Commission, and congratulate you. But I wanted you to come forward and tell a little bit about yourself, why you want to be a commissioner, and only because I thought when they interviewed, they did such a great job of relaying their qualifications and their desire, that I thought it'd just be better to hear from you. I don't think I can do it justice. So no pressure, but, Marcia, you would like to go first?
Okay, I think in brief, I would like to today say that I am a long-time, lifelong probably, from diapers on, social justice activist, both personally and professionally. And I think instead of like going into details of my background, because that's on paper if anybody wants to be reviewing it, one of the things that came to me as I was coming in today, I thought of a conversation Kenya and I had had at the luncheon, the Emily Gottfried Awards luncheon. And she was talking to me about the importance of getting people to talk to each other and to share and listen and learn about each other. And it was around, you know, instead of relying on name tags or titles or affiliations or whatever. And while I'm an advocate of name tags because my mind needs that sometimes to help people, I thought it was a really important thing that she said to me. And it in some ways reflected part of why I want to be on this commission, which is not only to engage in a conversation about what I think are the key issues in our society today, and really intense, and really have reached an intense point, and so it's an honor for me to want to be in part of that conversation. But I also feel like one of the places where I am right now in knowing how to further a conversation is understanding what listening is all about. And that is really something I'm thinking more and more about in terms of engaging in conversation. So I'm hoping that my story and your stories are something that will get shared in the coming months, and it will get shared in a way that we can really, you know, have time to hear each other out and get to know each other. And this is a place where I'm looking forward to being. The people I've met so far are top-notch, and as I say, I think you're dealing with really key issues and have an opportunity to have a legitimate voice. So it's an honor for me to participate in that.
Suzanne?
Yeah, so I am also a longtime activist and also a community media activist and educator. And I think that for me, what connects what I'm interested in and what I think you're doing is that I really believe in the power of stories. I think that stories help people understand issues in a deep way. They also capture people's imaginations and they can inspire change. And so I feel like we need to hear a lot more voices and stories in Portland in order to kind of face the issues that you're talking about, and also in order to create a will for change. There's a lot of things in my opinion that are in need of change, and I'm concerned about having to do with the direction that Portland is going. One of the things I'm really passionate about is creating affordable housing and really looking at what systemic solutions there might be to creating a city where everybody can live in. And I see, you know, I think San Francisco is an interesting example of a city that has become a city for the wealthy. And I would like to not see Portland go that direction. So that's one of the things I'm really passionate about. And I'm also just really interested in creating public forums for being able to talk about issues that I think we tend to live in a very isolated world. It's funny, we're very connected with media and with internet, and yet having actual conversations about issues and really hearing from people that are not our friends on Facebook is something that I would like to find a way to create, because I think one of the really amazing things about cities and about Portland is that it might be possible to meet and connect and understand people that you don't know. And I think that I would like more of, to create more opportunities for those conversations. And I think this is one place where that's happening. So it's really exciting for me to see the work that you're doing here, and I would love to be part of that.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
Go ahead, Alan.
Can you give
What
us,
upside down?
can you give us a brief?
It's kind of how I am today.
Good modeling, Sam.
Statement or not, but
Can you give us a brief note about the third candidate?
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah, so, to some logistical missteps, the third candidate, Audrey, is not here today, but we can tell you a little bit about her. So, you know, both Suzanne and Marcia opened by saying that they were lifelong social justice activists. Audrey's actually fairly new, and her interest is nonetheless deep in issues around social justice. She's involved in the architecture and engineering and planning community, and so also has an interest in our housing work. And she's also another person who came to us, her interest came to us from the forum on homelessness solutions. So she's interested in that work. I'm not sure how much more I can tell you.
I can say something. So some of the community she's connected to are mostly around housing issues, but she's connected to developers and Central City Concern. And there's also some other notes that I have. I can't find them. She is newer to this kind of work, but she does seem like she's willing to do the work and show up and be present and give all of her energy to it. So
she's involved in 2 projects currently that I think fit well with what we're doing. She has a commitment from the architecture firm that she works with to help lead their equity initiatives. So that's a nice commitment from a business. And then she was also involved in the project at the waterfront, some landscape architecture work that was done in the
Echoes of Struggle.
yeah, at the Japanese
Historical Plaza.
historical plaza. Thank you. I'm not sure how to phrase that. So there's a project that she was involved in there. So she has some experience working with different communities on different projects.
Yeah, and I think, you know, and we had a very good conversation around all 3 applicants, and I think we see a value in each one of them in different ways that they can bring to the Human Rights Commission, people that we feel like can get to work doing stuff and that have the passion. I think with Audrey, the thing that I connected with was, although she's fairly new, she has, you know, that when I connected with her as kind of where I was years ago, you know, maybe 10, 20 years ago, when I was kind of, when the light went on and I wanted to, what can I do, how can I get involved? And I think that's where she's at. She's already done some things, but she does have the passion and the commitment, and I think that it's real for her, and I think that all 3 members are going to be, they're wonderful candidates, so we would like to recommend all 3 candidates to become Human Rights Commissioners. So we vote on it now. So I'd like to make a motion, call for a vote to nominate, let's say, Audrey Alberson, Marcia Suttenberg, Suzanne LeGrand to be Human Rights Commissioners.
One quick question, clarifying question, and then we don't need to clarify within which class they all would.
That would actually be a good part of the motion.
That'd be a great part of the motion. Can you figure that out, Alan?
Yeah, actually, that's good. In my folder, the class.
Term the thing.
Actually did. So, we have 2 openings in the class of 14, which has some logistical issues related to, because it needs to be, well, I have 0 vocabulary today. Those terms need to be reviewed by city council this past October. So there's 2 in that class. That includes Shabri, Amy, and Rebecca. There's 1 spot in the class of 2015. So maybe we should fill these, it makes sense to fill them either from the top down or the bottom up. So let's see.
So help us understand this a little bit better. What does that mean in real terms, based on when their terms would begin?
So
and
the two spots in 14, they would actually, their terms would actually have begun in October of 14, and the first part of their term would expire in October of 17. They would be eligible for 2 more terms from 17 to 20 and 20 to 23. If you put them in the 2016 spot, it means that they would be taking over a term that has 2 years left in it. Their first renewal wouldn't come until October of 2016.
So just in the interest of time, because we're coming behind, do you feel like you can make a recommendation based on class for each of those within that motion?
I would say we fill from the top, because then we'll be out another month, and then that third spot will have another month longer, shorter term.
So the first two.
The first two would be,
It might not be good to have shorter terms for them. I wonder if we just put them into the 2016 cohort and have them do the same thing that Amy and I did, because we both joined in January as well, January, February. So we would have the rest, we would be finishing the rest of this term, and then our official term starts in October.
right,
So
it would be the same for any of the slots, yeah. I'm just thinking if we don't fill that other spot as quickly, then that term starts to erode faster and faster, so the more time you can give, the better. That's what I'm thinking.
Okay. So from the top.
I was gonna say, do you know anything with the?
There are different ways to handle this. We have staggered terms.
Yeah.
So I've never done this on the spot when we're making this decision, so I don't know how to
Neither have I.
incorporate this into a motion. We haven't done
Neither
this
do I,
before.
yeah.
I don't know if it makes much of a difference, but I like the idea about building from the top.
So
Do you think we should leave?
No.
It's not an issue. It's just
No, you should not, no.
it's a term limit.
So I would encourage the committee to, or the chair of the committee, to just go ahead and make a recommendation based on your best judgment. That's how I would feel, like I could move forward well.
From the top,
with
yeah.
that.
So in the class of 2014 will be Marcia and Suzanne, and then Audrey will be in the class of 2015. So that will be part of the motion.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Thank you.
Abstained? Okay.
Thanks for your hard work on that nomination.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
And the next step for them is to get confirmed by city council.
Is
Okay.
it timed out yet, and should we be there?
So I'll contact you guys and I'll let you know what day, what time, and here's what we'll discuss. So I'll let you know what paperwork process.
Okay.
So it's really easy, it's going, swearing you in.
Yeah, no,
Okay, next we have
Thank you very much.
Alan, who's going to help us talk about communications, item number 4, communications.
Items number 4, I passed out to you, or you should have received
I didn't know if you guys had.
as part of your packet today. This, on the back of it has the process action model, and the front of it says at the top, Portland Human Rights Commission Public Communications Policies and Protocols, 01/07/15. So the intent for this agenda item today is for us to review how we have practiced protocols around communications, especially public communications and public presence by members. And so I think there have been a couple of incidents here over the last several months where it's been unclear how folks can represent the HRC. And so we wanted to go back and say, what do the bylaws say? How have we practiced it? And is there something that we need to change moving forward? So the first question that comes up for folks is, who can actually speak on behalf of the Human Rights Commission. And the bylaw is fairly clear that if we are talking about people speaking on behalf of the Human Rights Commission before the media or other entities publicly, then it's the executive committee that makes that assignment. Okay, so generally speaking, the executive committee will designate a lead spokesman to represent the commission on commission matters. So unless you've been designated by the executive committee, then you aren't able to speak on behalf of the HRC. And all that means is that you can't make a statement that says, we believe this, or we support that, and identify the Human Rights Commission as having made that statement. You can make a statement that says, I believe this, or I support that, and I'm a Human Rights Commissioner, but I'm not speaking on behalf of the Human Rights Commission. That's the difference we're talking about here. So we'll talk further about this, but nobody that sits at this table, there's not an intent to censor anybody's opinion or their ability to support things. What these are designed to do is to reflect a process by which the statements, the support from this full commission are issued. So that's what we're trying to differentiate and distinguish here. You're free to have opinions and support things as an individual, you just can't do it representing the Human Rights Commission. You can say that you're a commissioner, but you have to be clear that you're not representing the views of the Human Rights Commission. So that's kind of the second piece there that says, may Human Rights HRC members speak or write on issues or participate in activities in an individual capacity, and then how should those individuals represent themselves? And again, this quote is actually straight from the bylaws, and it says, service on the commission does not prohibit members from speaking in an individual capacity or participating in government as members of the general public. In so doing, commissioners shall clarify that they are speaking or acting in their individual capacity and not on behalf of the commission. So the same thing again, you could go and testify before city council on an item. You could say that you're a member of the Portland Human Rights Commission, but you need to be clear that you are not, you need to make a statement that says, I am not speaking on behalf of the commission. I am not here representing the Human Rights Commission. And that's the only distinction that you make. If you do that online, if you do it in a public forum, you need to make those same kind of statements. Because we're a public body, we get identified as Human Rights Commissioners. People know that. So we're not saying that you need to hide the fact that you're a Human Rights Commissioner, but you need to identify the fact that you're not speaking on behalf of this commission, a body of 15 people that votes publicly on statements and opinions. Yeah?
Should I wait till you're?
You can, or if
I'll
it's,
wait.
is it on one of the first? Okay, so then the third piece around it then becomes how are we going to practice preparing those public statements? How do we get to a point where we agree as a group on what our positions are? And what happens when we don't agree? It doesn't happen very often, but there have been some fairly high-profile issues of late that we don't fully agree on as 15 people, and that some of our committees don't agree on. And I don't think we necessarily have a process in place that says if 8 people agree and 7 people don't, then what is our position as a commission? And how do we represent the views of those 7 that might not be represented in the statement of the commission? So those are things I don't know that we have an answer for. They do come up. But the first 2, I think, are more clear, that that's how we need to operate as commissioners.
Well, can I just, oh, sorry, you were gonna, in the past, it's come up in, well, this committee says this and feels this, and this committee says this and feels that. And I think one of the things that I've mentioned in recent meetings is that I believe diminishes the voice of the Human Rights Commission. I think the diversity of our perspectives is something that makes this commission that much more powerful. So a feeling, a stance, a perspective that the HRC is going to go forth with in a public way should be the HRC saying it. It shouldn't be that it's just coming from the HTTF or it's just coming from CLEAR or CPRC. And it then should also mean that hopefully whatever decision we've come to has come to as close as consensus. I don't know if consensus is how we have it written in, but I don't think we can negate the opportunity to say something because one particular committee does not want to do it, or, I don't know, I think that that's work that we have to continue to do on what that actual practice and tactical, day-to-day thing looks like, but, I think this is good clarification, thank you for bringing it directly from the bylaws, so that we know the delineation between ourselves speaking or the commission speaking, so. Sorry.
Okay. So I have two thoughts. Now that you mentioned that, I think just to jump off that before I get to my original thought is, when the conflict does happen, when we end up not agreeing, what ended up resulting was that we don't make a decision. And so the Human Rights Commission is no list on certain subjects. Now, I feel like we might need to build a process in to reach consensus when that does happen, to reach an agreement when that does happen. And my second thought is, so I've heard the communications rules before. Now, if the commission does have a statement out that we've sent out, a press release, it is possible, to my understanding, it is possible to say this is how the commission feels on X subject. And I feel like it's hard to go to events and supposedly we're representing the Human Rights Commission wherever we go. We're supposed, like, part of the way this work is to show up at places. And so it's really hard to say, like, oh, I guess differentiate. But it is, I'm just clarifying that it's okay to say the commission feels a certain way if the commissioners already announced that, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you make a good point, Gail, because we're out in places, we're doing things, and sometimes some people ask you, how would the HRC feel about this or feel about that? And so you need to be a little bit clear that, and I think sometimes what I say to folks is, here's what I think, as a member of the Human Rights Commission, here's what I think the group would think, but I need to take it back to that group, and there's a process for us to go through that. And it's a safe way to say, as a member, I think I know how the group would feel about something, but we have a process to go through, and you can invite them to come here and bring that issue forward and have them go through that process of getting an opinion from the group.
It's the same for committees, like people have asked me about CLEAR's stance on body cameras on police officers, and I say, well, I may think we have an idea together, but because we haven't sat down and made an universal statement together about it, I have to say we don't have an opinion on that yet.
Is it always, I think one point in time in the earlier part of the year, if nothing else, fall back to the mission and vision and just state that, it's like a blanket statement, and that way we all stay out of hot water if it really comes to that. So that's what I've been doing. Had I been confronted with the conflict or just infuriated different opinions, so I think that would work.
Yeah, I think that's great, because I think it's hard to say that we want you to be a member of this group if you didn't agree with the mission, right? And so it's pretty broad, and and oftentimes it's fairly cut and dry that you can tell when an issue falls within the mission.
Sam has been waiting.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I think that we've been doing a lot better on having communications or getting communications letters out on issues, and I hope that continues to grow. I think there are some really important issues that people look to us to have, a statement. Sometimes we missed opportunities. So I hope we continue to do that. The second thing is that we're not always going to agree with what the message should be or how the message should be worded. But I think we should all try to, what I try to do is, it's not about me or CPRC or nominating committee. We're a body as a whole. What is the message coming from this group, the HRC? Because when people look to the HRC, they may not know who we are. They're looking for a sound stance or a message from the HRC. So somehow we need to get to that place where the message really speaks for the work that we're doing, and we can get the message out quickly. And so I don't want to see.
So I think one of the things, Sam, to piggyback as you're resettling yourself here, one of the things that we also talked about is the elected position. A part of the chair position is that you've been elected to If you're the person who does have the capacity to speak on behalf, you can do part of the executive committee, but if there is a time when a split decision or something needs to be said, that person is the person that we've elected to do that and to make those decisions. And while of course the idea would always be coming back, garnering consensus, having a conversation, if we cannot do that, we're leaving it to, not leaving it to, but then it's a part of the shared responsibility to come up with that and be that first kind of, the lever in which to make some communication happen.
And I guess, so I guess the question is, to me, because I've struggled with this, so if, you know, we've had a situation where we didn't agree. And to me, and maybe this is wrong, no message was better than a message that we couldn't all agree on. That was where I was coming from at that moment. Because I feel that if we're going to have a message to the community, it needs to be one that we all agree on and that we're unified. And even though as chair or an elected person who can speak on behalf of this committee, I don't want to do that if I don't feel like we're all on the same page for the most part. And so is no message better than a message that we don't agree on?
I have a quick comment, just to piggyback on it. I think what Emmanuel mentioned about the mission is extremely important, and we might not see it right now, but it's easy to get consensus if we're working off of our mission and we use our mission to reach to those decisions. And so I think that maybe that might be what we include in trying to build consensus. It's just restate the mission.
And I think we want to, I think this is a good conversation, and I think when we look down the agenda and think what the matrix is for, I think this is that broader conversation is something that we'd have to look at for the transition work and retreat planning. I think it's a good spot. So that really the first 2 points there are the big ones, and actually that's why I wanted Jeff to join us at the table, since he worked with the commission earlier as a staff member and as a communications professional, may be able to give us a little bit of insight in how do we hold that role as an individual and as a member of the group, and what it means for public perception about the HRC, and also from the office standpoint.
Well, I think people understand that the group is made up of individuals. I mean, it's one of those things where you have to make a decision. If you speak out on something that's completely different than, the group that the opinion of the group that you're part of, you kind of have to make that decision whether it's that important to you or not. You certainly have the right to do it. And if you feel that strongly about putting something out that you yourself believe in, then, you do it. I mean, that's your choice. I don't know if you can, but you definitely have to make it clear that, but I mean, if they don't know you're a human rights commissioner, just, you don't have to bring it up, right? And you make it very clear that it's your opinion. If it's mentioned that you're a human rights commissioner, or if you mention that you're a human rights commissioner, then you also make it very clear that I'm not speaking on behalf of the Human Rights Commission, I can't speak for the body, but I know that blah, 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 right?
Does it also help delineate that for us if we talk about if it happens to be in the realm of the work that we're doing, right? So if I'm on a shoe tying board or something like that clearly has nothing to do with what the human rights is doing or what's in our purview. So that can be, and I think if we then, that makes it where anything that's within the purview of Human Rights Commission and the work that we're doing would require then I'm speaking on my own behalf versus the HRC.
Yeah, and it doesn't even have to come out as something that's that sounds like legal speak, Well, I can't speak on behalf of the Human Rights Commission, but you can just say things like, as a community member, I feel, as a member of the Japanese American community, I feel very strongly about the JTTF, or that kind of thing, and that really tells people the point of view that you're speaking from. I don't know if that helps, but.
Could I speak? I don't know if I'm allowed to, but
Yeah, well.
it might be really interesting interesting to represent divergent opinions to the public. I know, for example, when Supreme Courts make decisions, they have the dissenting opinion as well as the majority opinion. And in some ways, that seems to represent the community. Like, there are different lines of thought on this issue. Some of us think this and some of us think that. And in a way, that would also encourage people to see that there are different ways of approaching this and maybe think about, you know, the issue in a more complex way, because most of the things are fairly complex. So it wouldn't be hard, I think, to say, this is not my opinion, but some of us feel this line of thinking and some of us feel this way. So this is where we are on this issue. And I think that would be great to put out actually to the public, that we don't agree on everything. And that's a representation of the community.
And I think that's that process, bigger process question that will come down the line.
Exactly.
Good.
And
I'm actually glad you used the Supreme Court as an example, because actually it's not only when there are differing opinions on a result, but it can happen when it's this same, whenever it was agreement, but someone had a different way of getting to that decision.
so, fantastic conversation, and again, we're gonna move into, as Alan is saying, into designing a retreat, and I think all of that we can weave into mapping, as we map that. Is there any final things to say or ask about this communication stuff that Alan's putting forth?
And again, I think the important pieces of this for today are the practical applications of those first two pieces. How do we represent ourselves as individuals? And again, I think we don't want people to leave feeling like we're trying to quash people's First Amendment rights. But we do operate as a group, and how we operate as individuals can reflect on how we're viewed as a group. So we need to be careful.
And if I could just quickly add that, when Kenya came on board, I told you wouldn't be rid of me completely. So whatever you need, let me know.
Thank you.
Or if I'm too involved.
Okay.
Thank you.
Moving right along, we're gonna spend about 15 minutes, if we need to, on Roundtable 2014 report and next steps. Before we do that, Shibri's not here, so. Oh, yes, she is. What's not on the agenda is a major congratulations to the Emily G. Godfrey, BEGG team, who put on an amazing event. I think we could call that a first tearjerker for an HRC event. There was not a whole lot of dry eyes in that room. So very well done.
And well attended.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like the venue too.
So Alan has asked Diallo and I just to give a brief overview about the roundtable, and a lot of that's review for almost all of you. So it might be just more for you two, how we ended up doing the roundtable, and then he's going to pick up with what actually happened and what we walked away with. Do you want to start?
Sure. So yeah, I was just pulling up the document. Did you get a copy?
Exactly. So you have a copy of what we're going to be talking about. I printed this out, so my apologies for the second page being flipped over.
So yeah, we worked for, I want to say like 3 months, maybe 4 months. A group of 4 of us, Amy, Alan, Linda, who is a former commissioner, and myself, worked with different community members, different governmental organizations to try to find out what key issues the homeless population is faced with and how to solve homelessness for them. So yeah, 3 long months, and it was, I would say that we worked really well together. I don't have too much to say about that actual process other than the fact that we narrowed 6 issues, which were the spectrum of housing options, locally dedicated revenue source to meet affordable housing, supportive and community housing, specific housing solutions, legislation and policies, and ending family homelessness. The day of the event, we were all hands on deck, and I feel like it went really well. We also had volunteers like Marcia who was there helping out, and I think it was really successful. And the stuff that came out of it is awesome. So if you guys have this, you can read over. I think Alan sent it over next time.
Yeah, and I'll just add, so this roundtable is the product of a committee that, in part, a committee that Diallo and Amy and a woman named Myra Ariola began when we first came on. The three of us came on together, and we were excited together about organizing a committee that would do that discovery work.
Yeah.
So how do we really hear from the community in a thorough way? And so we did our first roundtable with human and civil rights leaders only 2 Julys ago. And from that, this forum, this specific topic forum with a larger public audience and participation evolved. So one of the questions we get to add to this retreat and our planning for next is how do we continue that? You know, do we have that same format? Do we do a civil rights leader roundtable every other year, followed by a theme-based roundtable? It's an exciting thing to think about because we get to design it any way we want based on what we've experienced so far. That's all I have to say before you take it over.
And I think logistically, for folks that don't know, we partnered with the Interfaith Initiative on ending family homelessness, and held the forum on the day of homelessness awareness in November. And our forum was the second part of the day's activities. The morning awareness walk was the first part. And there ended up being about 150 participants in the forum. I think part of them were from the walk and part came for the forum itself. So the piece that's now new is in the executive summary piece you have. This is literally an executive summary for what will be a longer document that will summarize the work that came out of the forum. And so going into the forum, what we wanted it to be was centered around action-based outcomes that the HRC could take away and help move forward. So what we did planning-wise was ask each of the 5 breakout sessions to identify 2 or 3 outcomes for which the HRC could advocate for in the future around. So I think one of the nice things that happened is we started talking about homelessness, and what we wanted to find out was what solutions could we move forward. And what we heard consistently was the need to establish long-term or stable, affordable housing in our community. So it wasn't so much about homelessness as it was about housing, which I think fit really well with the work that we're looking at. So the outcomes that are here were based out of the 5 different breakout sessions. So that's on page 2. It's a summary of HRC platform outcomes. I guess I won't read these. You can read them on the second page, but you know, what they are each of the breakout sessions, the groups talking about what efforts could be made to help move the solutions in that particular session forward. So, for instance, if you look at the one that is around locally dedicated revenue, what those folks talked about was where would you identify those sources of revenue? So this is a group of people who are working in the field and advocates. And so they've got one set of ideas that may or may not fly, but this is what came out of it. They said, if we're looking for new funding, we might look at a dining out tax, or getting funds from developers, or levying a building fee. A couple of those are the pieces that if we, HRC or as the Housing Rights Task Force, would be able to go out and talk to people, we would say, this is what a group of folks who spend some time hearing from some experts in the field, and then talking about it, came up with. Whether or not they're feasible, we don't know. That's going to be another piece that we'll be able to move forward. But, especially that one, I think, is the most difficult to move forward. It's the biggest ball. So whether or not those are feasible, we don't know. But that's kind of what came out of it. Same thing when you look at in the area of legislation. We talked about legalizing rent control in the state, which we really don't have control over. But that's what came out of the group. These are the outcomes that folks talked about. There are a lot of different ideas in there. So we'll continue to be talking about these. And what we're talking about next is the third page of this, which is how we develop an advocacy plan moving forward. And we being folks that are interested in housing, the Housing Rights Task Force, if there are folks in full HRC that are interested in it, and taking some of this information and going out to the places that might be able to bring movement in some of these areas. You know, again, our main focus as a city commission is on the city of Portland, on the city council, on city bureaus, but we could range out to other folks that have an influence or work in the housing field in this region, like the Multnomah County. There's the new coordinating body, which is a home for everyone. And then there are community organizations that we already have worked with that we can help form coalitions with. So what we're trying to do is identify, and really tonight asking folks, you know, if you look at that plan, where do you think we would be effective in trying to advocate moving forward? So if folks have any ideas tonight, we'd love to hear your feedback. If you have any feedback about the outcomes, we'd like to hear that. I think similar to the original roundtable, this will be a much fuller report that will come to the HRC at a point in the future. But we wanted to start gathering these thoughts so that we don't miss opportunities to advocate along the way. I don't think we have to have a final report for us to be able to talk about what we think is important as a group in moving forward affordable housing in our community. So I don't think we can wait for that final report to be able to go out and say, this is an important issue in our community, and here are some of the things that we should be working on already.
Quick question about where this work is gonna be housed. I know Damon's waiting to talk, but, is it a good assumption that this will be housed in RTF?
It is a good assumption. I wish Malloy were here, and I haven't had much contact with Malloy, so I don't want to commit him to too many things, but I'm assuming it is also.
Is that an active, do you find that an active committee right now? How's that going? Realistically?
Well, we've been doing the roundtable, so, right now, I think after this meeting, we're gonna set a meeting.
And
Okay.
I think we've got some new folks that are interested in that area, and it's a huge area. This is
Yeah.
one slice of it, so.
Yeah,
It's a
city
place where we put a lot of effort.
Okay.
So let's,
We have till 5:10, so
Oh,
a few more
Did Damon
minutes.
have something to say?
Damon's got something.
No, we were just talking, I'm sorry, I'm gonna add, because the part, I really appreciate how it's laid out in the follow-up advocacy plan, but I just happened to be honing in on the legislative agenda part, and so we were just talking to ask about some of it. Unfortunately, we'll have to wait till 2006 when.
I think that's a good example of when we lay out a plan, we have to be aware of those time constraints. And so, you know, sort of immediately after the forum, I've actually been in contact with the legislative office and the city and said, where are we in the process? And we're way behind. And so we couldn't impact it, but it doesn't mean that these aren't issues that are necessarily going to get solved tomorrow. So we need to start to be aware of what those timelines look like if we think that there is something legislatively that we need. Same thing with these other groups, most of them meet once a month. We need to know what they're doing, when those things are coming to them. So that's part of the work around advocacy, is making sure we understand the landscape.
And specifically, I know that, like with potential bills, is, you know, the one on the IZL, that regards to housing, there is a bill that's police related that probably we may want to consider. There's another one that's doing trafficking related that we want to consider. So it's, I was thinking about that broader policy pieces.
Yeah.
We could start some of the work that goes into the pre-work for them now.
Yeah.
I was not, due to work scheduling conflict, I wasn't able to participate in these conversations. And I'm just curious in looking at this advocacy plan. I guess for myself, I would just need to look at who was present, and is this something that was collaboratively developed with those who were present at the forum? These are what they're all saying they want. And so there's a sense of readiness and some groundwork laid already, right?
Yep.
Definitely.
That's great, because a lot of, I mean, like Community Alliance of Tenants, are they there?
Yeah.
Like,
the groups that are in each of the sections actually made PowerPoints and presented exactly what you have here from those groups that did it. So
this is responsive to community input, their leadership in moving this work forward. So we could work in partnership with them and develop some sort of like inside-outside strategy to apply pressure so that we can make effect or be effective when we next can legislatively, which probably won't be this time, but next time. So that kind of work, coordinating that would be really, really good. The relationship building is key, and just being in constant communication with the leads who are liaisoning between us and their respective organizations, so that we can be responsive, like, participatory democracy, and then also encourage them and share information with them and how they might be more impactful. And that way we could get the attention that we want from the folks that we want.
that's why these roundtables are so powerful, because we do build those relationships and we get this participation.
Go ahead.
Just one other thing, I think there in the past have been some missed opportunities around some of our inside strategizing. So a lot of us, this is a community volunteer body, and there's a lot of strength and value in that. I think we could bulk up both our, working with community side and also our internal strategizing side. And with regards to the latter, working with the Portland Housing Bureau representatives, those who are actually moving forward with good ideas to make housing more equitable in Portland, it would be great to build those relationships more and have some more policy level conversations with them, and see what we might be able to get out of that as well.
Yeah, I agree with that, and that's why it's on here. I think we don't have, I think it's on there, not to say that we have the relationships in place, I think we need to have them in place because they are a key part of this, and I don't think we have those yet, so yeah. Agree with that.
So I'm curious about like next steps and mapping that out, like who will take what. There are some things that, is that something that will happen during our retreat, like strategic planning, or?
Well,
is that-
we know the CDC isn't gonna be, so it's gonna either be individuals until the HRTF meets and confirms that this is what we're gonna do.
I'd like to see, like I was alluding to before, I'd love to see it housed in HRTF. And if individuals want to join those efforts or work in conjunction with HRTF, that makes sense to me. So maybe HRTF can provide recommendations or develop their map about what they maybe getting help from you, and whoever else is involved in policy angle, and then make an invitation to everybody else to get involved. Okay, an idea.
That's the way I see it too, and I'm willing to help hold the report for HRTF. I can't do all the to-dos, but
Right.
I'm willing to kind of help keep track of them.
I'm thinking, you're reading my mind. Yes, I agree with what you said earlier about us. I've noticed sometimes, I don't want to function too bureaucracy, and I know that we have certainly the structures in place to help facilitate improved process and better outcomes. I get that and I stand behind that, but I don't want to wait for reports because I know we're all volunteering before we take action. So maybe we can have, or maybe we can all be informed or invited to participate in whatever dialogue takes place to sort of figure out who's doing what chunk of this. In other words, I don't want to wait for a report. And I don't think the person doing the report has to feel that pressure. That's kind of unfair. So maybe, yeah. So however, does that mean go to an HRTF meeting then? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes. After this meeting, we'll send it out.
Okay, cool.
Okay, any final things?
Yes.
We do need to move on.
Because I do, and I'm reminded that one of the follow-up items here is actually, if you look at the community organizations, if you remember Jess Larson, who was with the Welcome Home Coalition, was here 2 meetings ago, gave a presentation about hers organization. She has asked us to endorse the coalition and to actually join their effort. And I would actually like to make a motion tonight that we do that. I'm willing to, they're actually meeting at the end of this month, so I can pass that along to the HRTF folks if there's somebody that's interested. But I would actually like to see us move that forward. Jess was one of the presenters that talked. Their focus is on the locally dedicated revenue stream for affordable housing, so they're working the long game. But so they're at the very beginning of building that coalition, starting to move that effort forward. So my motion would be that the HRC endorse the work of the Welcome Home Coalition, and that we identify a, what do they call this, liaison to that group, and to start working with the Welcome Home Coalition.
And you're saying a liaison from HRC?
From HRC, yes.
And so that person, do you suspect that person should also be a member of HRTF?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
And who's on?
Who all's on HRTF?
Right now? Me, Malloy, Diallo, and I think
Do you all have the bandwidth to serve on yet another coalition?
Yeah, that's my question as well.
that it is a big one, and I'm looking to help coordinate it. My hope is that if we get some new HRTF members, that might be a place where we can also plug some folks in.
Well, my other question is, I mean, there might be a specific person on HRTF. Oh, you just said you wanted to be interested in being
Yeah.
that liaison?
It's starting with.
Okay.
Yeah, and then see if we can get some else if they have.
Starting the liaison and then asking somebody else to be liaison? Is that what you mean? Okay.
They're just starting to meet this month.
Right, so my question and follow-up with that is, I wonder why we would have a liaison for one organization doing important work over another organization doing important house work. It could be that there's a liaison of that committee to a number of organizations.
I just don't know any other organizations that have asked us for a liaison at this point.
They've asked for a liaison.
Right.
Okay.
They have a seat at the coalition table if we want them, to help them organize the effort that they're moving forward, which I think is a big deal.
I'll see Jen and me, and actually right after this, after this, so.
Jess?
Jeff, that's all, if we do endorse that, public.
And one final thing, does it have to be official? I mean, to establish an official liaison, it kind of has us asked to keep something else in track and.
The first part though is to endorse it, is to
Right.
endorse the coalition.
So
Maybe we do that first.
yeah, we could just do an endorsement and then leave the liaison part to later if necessary.
Yeah, or to whoever has like that relationship, because for instance, Ibrahim Mubarak from R2D2, I'm the liaison to him, and I just stay in touch with him. I talk to him about what's going on, about this report, and so.
Yeah, I would amend it to say that we don't have to appoint an official liaison. I think we want to operate in that role with the coalition, but I don't think we have to take part of the coalition.
I'm not on our HRTF, I don't have bandwidth to be on it, but I do engage with her on some of those issues, and so so in terms of the Diallo model, Ibrahim model, I really.
Yeah.
And she's actually asked me specifically also, if we had somebody, and I told her that
Yeah.
I would help her, but I think with all the folks that are involved there, I think we've got it covered.
Okay,
That's what I
so
would say.
are we ready to jump back into your motion?
Yes, to officially endorse the Welcome Home Coalition. They have an endorsement form, we would sign up, we would be shown as having endorsed the Welcome Home Coalition.
I second that motion. Who does the all in favor? Don't you have to do it?
No,
Oh,
the chair.
no,
that's you.
somebody else does. Thank you.
The chair.
Is all in favor?
Yeah.
Aye.
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 And one
Any-
abstention
Okay,
from
I'm
Rebecca.
Any opposition? No, Rebecca abstains.
Thank you. All right, this concludes our report.
Okay.
Okay, executive committee and staff report. Okay, there's HRC and COAB matters to look into. As you guys probably all recall, we have two roles in forming the COAB and helping form the COAB. One is we need to appoint an HRC commissioner to that body. And two, the settlement agreement asks that the chair of PCOD and the chair of HRC appoint together 3 people. So let's address the first one first. I sent out an email a few weeks ago asking for a final call of interest submitting a final call of interest for anyone, and I haven't received any return interest comments. So as it stands now, we don't have a candidate for the HOC post to COAB.
Really? Can I actually speak about that? So, one of the things that I felt was important, and I think we talked about it in the last few meetings, was that the seat, while it doesn't have to be an HRC member, I believe it should be someone who served on the commission, just for continuity of understanding of the work that's occurring here. I also think that it would help if what we talked about is the COAB work is going to be extensive, and that it would be hard to do much else, just because the COAB itself is going to be pretty darn involved. However, I do think a connection to CPRC and CLEAR would be important, because that's where the work within HRC is primarily occurring. So my thought was that this person should be an HRC member, and then B, be sitting in those two committees in an adjunct perspective, so that they're aware of what's occurring. Maybe not also then acquiring additional work to do, because they already have the work that they're gonna be holding of the COAB, but understanding what's occurring both in CLEAR and CPRC, because I think we've talked about those different and dissenting, those perspectives are good to have, and I think that person should have all, that entire run of things. And I don't know if we're talking about whether or not people are interested or want to do that. I have a few ideas personally on who I think could do that. Do we want to maybe talk about like a nomination? I think we should. Because we haven't necessarily had someone like jump in yet, which is why we're where we are now.
One quick question, I know Sam, you're a bit distracted, but you were surprised earlier that there wasn't anyone? Did I make a mistake?
Yeah, I thought that I said that I was willing to do it.
From my memory, you needed more information, but if you are interested, that should be on the table.
Yes, I am interested, but I also wanted to have the discussion that there's, because I'm the chair of the CPRC, that, have a discussion about it, that there's not perceived conflict of interest, or, people don't feel like I'd be a good fit. So, but yes, I'm interested and willing to do it, but I think there should be a discussion about it.
Somebody else had something else about it.
I think that there should definitely be a discussion. I think that it should be a nominating process. Even self-nomination is okay. But a nominating and a voting process, so it's democratic.
Okay, one issue is there is a time concern. The COAB is gonna start meeting pretty soon, and it would be great if we could get something on that line sooner than later. And we wanted to.
Can we do it, can we move to have, can I right now even just move to do a nominating and voting process right now?
Sure. Is everybody
We're
okay
gonna call
with
for
that?
nominations at this point?
Is there anyone concerned with that process?
What is the time commitment on that?
So I don't know if you want to go into it, or Diallo and I have been sitting at the table around what the COAB is looking like, or is supposed to look like, and the COAB is going to, one of the reasons I said everything I said before about that person, like that kind of being their job, or being a major part of what we would expect collectively from them, is because it's going to be like another, I would assume that just similar to like the HRC and the type of work, the depth of work that you have to go into would be probably similar to the COAB. They, as far as I know, are going to be meeting less often. However, the work and then the work that's happening in between those meetings should be pretty robust. And that was one of the reasons why, again, that person I'm thinking should do, pardon me?
I think it's like 10 hours.
At least,
I've
yeah.
heard 10 and I've heard 15. I've
Right.
heard one.
Right, and so, and I think that was one of the reasons why that HRC member could probably only do that, and then if they were at least able, connected to, in some adjunct perspective, both CPRC and CLEAR, both of them, then that would help. So, I don't know if that helps at all for the nomination process.
And it's a 2-year commitment?
2 year with the opportunity to re-up for one additional term.
Is there like a little brief description, like a one-pager?
Yeah,
outlining?
I sent out an email about that. I don't have it with me.
Can you quickly
Basically,
recap on
it's-
what are the main what someone would be expected to do?
It came from the DOJ settlement. And this was what the city decided to have as the oversight board for officers, for law enforcement.
So it's not the city, but the DOJ stated that there needs to be a co-ab that was the like oversight for the COPL.
Okay.
And so that's how it was like kind of brought up. How it's been done or how it's been implemented is something that we as a community have had to do, and the city has had the charge to have the community involved with. But yes, they are essentially holding the COPL accountable and being a part of the community that's going to be able to address those issues with the COPL and make certain that they're doing those things. It's a group of 20. 5 of those members are police officers who are not voting. The other 15 are voting members.
And I want to make a slight pause real quick, because one of the audience members mentioned to me about asking about what the acronym was.
Yeah.
So let's try for these meetings to actually like use the full names of things instead of the acronyms, because they know it can be assumed for new members and other people in the audience.
So the co-op is the Community Oversight Advisory Body or Board? Board. Okay. And the COPL is the Community Oversight, oh goodness.
Yeah, that's what.
Community Oversight Advisory Board.
There's a word, the COPL is the Community Oversight.
Community liaison.
Thank you,
Liaison.
Yeah, the first
Thank
thing
you,
is not
Dante.
community.
Maybe it's, I think it is community. I think they're
We
both
use
community
acronyms
oversight
so
and then it's
much.
liaison.
Advisory language.
COCL.
Yeah. So this group speaks to the COPL essentially.
So
Or
it's
the COPL is one
Community
person.
Advocacy, Community Oversight Advocacy Board, which we're looking for members for. And the COPL is the Community Oversight, Community Liaison.
Is it community liaison? No, that's not, is it?
It's definitely community.
It's COCL. Okay, well, so the person who's doing the liaison, the person who's telling, yeah.
And the board would be like the kind of work or skill set they'd be looking for as policy, like what are they?
I mean, there are the 5 police officers, there are 5 folks that are appointed by the commissioner and the commissioners and the mayor. There are 3 positions in particular that the HRC and the PCOD appoint that are mental health professionals. Then there are the 2 PCOD appointment person, HRC appointment person. The other 5 are general community members. And that's what this, the application process that right now I believe has garnered about 57 or so applications. That's that process. And so the other 5 members are community at large members and do not necessarily have to have that mental health. Police, you don't have to be.
And they are charged, members of the co-op are charged with overseeing the settlement agreement specifically,
Right.
right? Which is focused on use of force with those with mental illness or experiencing a mental illness crisis. And as we all have been discussing, we're also being intent on weaving in race and ethnicity with those concerns.
Would that be the expectation of the HRC appointees, that would be a big focus? Someone who's looking at it from that lens?
The joint lens. So the applications kind of explain it pretty well. The main focus I see is mental illness and how the police are interacting with people with mental illness, and how does race co-join with that as well. Is that a good representation from what other folks who are paying attention?
And they've made, when I say they, I mean, Amy Ruiz has been kind of a point person, I think she's been engaged with the community and everyone, and even Paul Jimenez, who's the local, who's Rosenbaum?
Rosenbaum, yeah.
Rosenbaum's the local person, who really been making it clear that they listen to the community and where they are, want to expand what co-op's focus is on and the community in Portland, and as well as they intersect with mental health as well. So they've really emphasized that they've heard, they listen, and they want people to know it's not solely mental health.
Yeah. And the COCO, I wanted to say, I have a different opinion, a different understanding. We do need to appoint somebody from HRC. I think the question was, once that person leaves HRC, do they have to be a COAB?
They're appointed by the HRC, I don't think so.
Well, that was,
I think
that's,
that, yeah, that was the discussion that we had had at the last meeting and the meeting before, had been around, does that seat remain, do we believe as a body, that seat should remain a human rights commissioner seat versus like following that person? And the discussion we had last time, and you know, let me know if I'm wrong, was that we believe that that was in fact the truth, that we would want that seat to remain someone who's a city commissioner.
we're on the same page with that, I just heard something different, okay,
Oh,
yeah. And also, the COAB is chaired by the COCO, right? And so I met with the COCO team a few weeks ago, and one of the things that I was looking for is what's their orientation going to be with that COAB? Because there's some room for interpretation in the settlement agreement about how that could be arranged. And I came away with a good understanding that this team is interested in giving the COAB the space and the room to be a true community oversight body, and that their chairship was going to be fairly hands-off. So with all that said, I'm not comfortable with the team being out of Chicago when we communicated to that in a way. But I am, and former Chief Justice Ruiz is,
Dominguez.
thank you, is going to be chairing that, and he was in that meeting as well. And particularly from what I heard from him, I would feel confident in encouraging somebody to join that committee.
And to his credit, I think, I don't know if this has been settled yet, but I think the office space we're looking at is at Rosewood Initiative.
Oh, he's
which is
really-
Yeah.
which is all about
Yes.
security.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so just a small tidbit. So he came to the last CPRC meeting, and for those of you who don't know, he was invited, he came to the CPRC meeting and talked about what he's gonna do and about the new office space, and we're gonna try to work with him as much as possible to help connect him with community members. And I've had the opportunity to meet with him, talk to him, and he seems very committed and ready to go as far as the community outreach and engagement piece. He's talked to Rosenbaum and told him he needed an office space because it needs to be in Portland. I think he said 4 days a week or something like that. And so he's been very adamant about what he needs to be able to fulfill his commitment and his job. So I feel very good about his role.
So Dale is suggesting we go ahead and call for nominations, and if that makes sense. Do you want to
Sure.
go on with that?
Yeah, do I need to make a movement?
No, I think we're just now.
And people can self-nominate as well.
Or we're just offering up nominations, is that what we do? And then we offer nominations.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
Sorry.
yeah, last meeting, I also actually nominated myself, but in thought about what might be the best fit and the most appropriate, and somebody that also is doing work with this in this field with SCAFE, I think I would like to nominate Emmanuel to be on the COAB. So that's my nomination.
Other nominations?
I would actually like to second the nomination for, because you were on my mind, so obviously, as someone who has sat in the chairship before, I want you to have the space to be comfortable making a decision that doesn't invade into your nonprofit life, but also your personal life and professional life, so keep that into consideration. You will not disappoint me if you decline that nomination.
So I was going to nominate, can I nominate 2 people? I mean, I don't know if it makes a difference. I was gonna nominate Sonji, but I also think nominating Emmanuel makes sense. So those would be my 2 nominations.
Do I have to sign today, right now?
In this hot seat, yes.
Yeah, you do
Yeah.
actually.
Sizzling seat.
All 3, there's 3, right? Any other
Early
nominations?
February is the first meeting, so. Yeah.
And Sam, you nominated.
There are 3 nominations.
Other nominated.
I nominate Sam.
I am considering it, actually. I was just reading over just some of the description of it.
Nope. pressure.
Okay, any other nominations? Okay.
Yeah, I move for a vote on Sam, Sungji, and Emmanuel. All in favor? Say
We
aye.
only need to pick one.
You only get to pick one.
Oh, we only get to pick one.
One.
Yeah.
So, oh, yeah, yeah.
Three, should we?
So,
it's one.
It's one.
so do we first have
But there
to,
were three.
Oh, there's three on each.
yes, we have to go each one, so yeah.
Votes,
No, no,
and
no.
then top two, or you just.
So all in favor of voting for,
There's a little bit of confusion. So there are two processes. Right now, we need to choose one person from HRC to serve on the co-op. The other process we've got to get to in a minute. But that's something that the chairs of PCOT and HRC appoint. So our job right now is to choose one person who is an HRC member to serve on co-op.
the joint decision will happen with.
And I will decline the nomination for co-op, so that will clear that up.
So you can only vote for one person, is that what we're saying?
Right,
So there are
so
10 people
one
here.
for Emmanuel,
There are 10,
one for-
2, 4, 6, 8, 10 members.
Yeah, so the one for Emmanuel, one for Sam. All in favor of having Emmanuel join the co-op, say aye and, nays.
Aye.
I can't see.
Okay, and I think this is kind of neat.
Let's go
But
look
let's-
it
yeah.
up for the.
All in favor of Sam being the member, the HRC member for the co-op, please raise your hand and say aye.
Can I vote for myself?
Yes.
We have folks, oh, that's okay.
And are there any abstentions in the vote?
I prefer to abstain, because I support both, but.
Okay.
But,
It can be-
I did vote for Sam, but my preference is to abstain, because I actually support either.
Did you
Okay.
get all
I
that in
think
the
we all
notes?
support.
All right. Okay.
Okay,
So wait, we go with that. Do you have an abstention or no?
Yes.
I say we should, yeah, because that's his true
Yeah.
position.
Shouldn't that change the previous
Phone number down. You.
Hey, Sam got at least one vote, so there you go.
okay, congratulations. So, and thank you for being willing to serve on that committee.
So for everybody else, there are also other avenues to
Yeah.
become a member of the co-op. So it does not preclude you from either trying to become the appointee from one of the city council members, or if you meet the standards for mental health experience, that means a lot of different things. You could apply to be through the appointee by HRC or PCOT.
Okay, and on that note, as you guys know, Joe Vanderveer, PCOT chair, and I have been meeting and working out how to make these choices. Deadline for those applications happens January 9th, and then we're gonna move pretty fast into a selection process. So please let me know if anyone is interested in being part of that. I'm hoping we'll be able to do interviews. Haven't been able to touch base with him about the calendaring for that. But I'm not sure if our deadline is the 16th or the 23rd, I've lost track. I think it's the 23rd too. So please be in touch very soon if you want to be part of that.
I think I might be being really dumb, and I'll own that, but then, so we just, I'm very happy with the decision that was made to have an appointee, right?
Yeah.
And then the next step is in collaboration with PCOT, and that's
Three
why,
others from
and
the
together, the two, jointly, a decision will be made about 3 additional people from PCOT and or HRC, or just,
From, that are community
From
members
the
that
community.
have professional.
Yeah.
mental health,
Right.
and also racial equity experience.
Well, those three particular have to have some professional mental health, background.
Okay.
And the application does address experience with racial.
Okay, so hopefully.
So that can be a
both.
part of the
Yeah.
feeling, but yeah.
Yeah, okay, Thank you.
Okay, so we're running a bit behind, oh no, we're not done with executive committee and staff report. You're on.
Just make a quick note,
Yeah.
some may have noticed in the news, so Commissioner Smith, Fish already appointed, a retired, executive over it.
Oh, really? Yeah. Wow.
So they have 4 other positions. What? You said you for a second.
So let's move on, if we can,
Wow.
to
Right, to-
city communications,
That's great.
Yeah.
an appeal, the appeal stuff.
Oh, right, this is the, okay, I was moving on. So, the 2 last pieces that we wanted to talk about, we submitted a, open letter to the city, to the mayor and the council on, their choice to make, an appeal with regard to the Department of Justice, settlement. And we want to just follow that up and, do some further work with that, as we believe that there is probably space for, one of the commissioners to kind of move or dissent on their perspective of that, appeal. So, is there anyone here who would be interested in that further work? I think it would just be kind of picking up from the letter that we wrote, and kind of, the goal then would be meeting with, individual, members in the city to find out if there is room for movement, if there is room to kind of rescind that appeal, how do we make that occur? And how do we push that forward? So, is anyone interested, in working with myself, and at least, I mean, Amy and myself, we finalized that letter, but is anyone else interested in being a part of that work?
I'm interested. You saw that there's some movement by ANA coalition today. Around that.
Okay, so Diallo, Amy and myself, and if someone else decides, later on, please let us know. And also, lastly, we have a city council report that is going to be coming due here, pretty soon. And Alan's going to talk about that, and I think, I think Alan can help, only because you've been kind of holding the keys to that. Alan, you're such a wealth of.
I carried around this stuff for a long time, but if you've ever seen the color 8.5 by 11 brochure, it was actually presented, we are required as a commission to present an annual report of our activities to commission, to city council every year. And the last one was done at about this time, a year ago by Kyle. And so I think what we wanted to do tonight was, I think, just get a sense from folks, just a shout out of, what we like to do is report what accomplishments and things we've worked on over the last year. So I think the folks that might be presenting that, if we could just have a shout out of things that we think should be in that report.
So one of the things that I wanted to actually hold off on and just let people know, but I want to go ahead and have that done at the retreat. I think at the retreat, we're going to have a better time to really be able to come up with those and talk about those. We're thinking that that retreat would happen sometime in March. So our idea is that this would maybe then be done sometime late March, early April, depending on how fast we can pin that.
We may have to get that on your radar, Kenya, to try and start prodding council to get us on the schedule. And I know budget season, they may not want us.
Well, and I don't know if we want to do it before we're even ready, so I.
Well, I mean, there's a long lead
Is there a long
time
way
to
to-
get a council slot. That's all I'm saying.
So we're looking at late March or early April as ideal, I think.
Early April is probably something good.
Early April, more ideal. Is that something that you can look into, Kenya? Okay, thanks.
Okay.
As a new person, I'd just like to say the last one was really helpful to me to read, to just give an overview of what you had accomplished in the last year. It was really valuable.
And then I think we perhaps brainstorm next month at the meeting, but what should be contributing to that? Sorry, we didn't really weave into that last minute decision.
It's totally out there.
Okay.
Thank you for your flexibility.
Because we're past it.
Okay, and so,
We've also passed, oh no, we're not, okay. Yeah.
we're gonna, do public comment before item 7 because you guys have all been waiting. Can we, Damon, do you mind passing the list? And whoever the first, we have, Marcia?
Oh,
Second,
yes.
or-
I just had an announcement of an event I wanted to share with people.
Okay.
Do you want me to do that now?
Yes.
On next Friday, Friday, January 16, at 6 p.m., Merle Evers Williams, wife of Medgar, is going to be speaking at Temple Beth Israel for free.
What time again?
At 6 o'clock at Friday, January 16. And Temple Beth Israel is located at Northwest 19th and Flanders. And it should be a really nice event. They always get good turnouts, and it would be nice to be represented there tonight.
I'll be there.
Thank you.
What's her name again?
Merle Evers Williams, the wife of Medgar Evers.
Thank you, Marcia. So just to check in with everyone, no one else has selected that they wanted to offer comment?
The new format with the folded wall kept me away from the sign-up sheet, so I will.
Do you want to? Please?
Yeah, I'll interject now, since you touched on the main thing I was going to raise, is that Dr. Haynes and the new president of the local NAACP, somebody you probably never heard of, like Joanne Hardesty.
Who's that?
Joanne has been selected to be the chapter president to reinvigorate the local NAACP chapter.
Oh, really?
Yes. And so, along with Jobs with Justice and Pastor Mark Knudsen from also with the Albina Ministry Alliance, they came down and did a nice press conference to try and get through to the city what has already been issued here and led to the resignation of Kate Lohr as a Human Rights Commissioner, that this kind of technical, to many people pointless appeal regarding Judge Simon's hearings on the United States of America versus the City of Portland for the Portland Police Department is troubling to many of us, and we feel that the best action would be for our city commissioners, councilmen, people to just drop that appeal, which is, they had, I think, their first session of mediation today. So doesn't look like our voice of the people, which may or may not be the majority, is going to get listened to, but I think there's still a space for raising that issue, because at any time, as any of you who've been involved in litigation know, at any time a party can just go, oh, change my mind. And that would really, I think, be the best thing for all people in this city, is if the commissioners, 3 of the city commissioners would say, wow, we've got 40 lawyers, but they really don't need to be working on this. Let's withdraw the appeal in United States of America versus the City of Portland. That meeting did not go as long as the last time I was here last month. They met until like 5 o'clock. I came directly from there to here. They have approved the ordinance to hire the COCL, or the team, anyway, the team from Chicago. And at your position as human rights commissioners, I think you will have people wanting some feedback from you on the issue of, apparently about $75,000 will go to help the airline industry bring the team back and forth when they need to go back and forth. So when you're advocating for your cause with our city council members, remember that if they've got $75,000 for Alaska Airlines or whoever, they can shake loose some more change for grassroots connection to improving lives for our citizens. And I think that's enough community report. There's probably lots of other important issues. Oh, don't shoot Portland. Oh, so Ron Wyden came to town, and some people were more enthusiastic about listening to his business as usual than others. So there was some contention around how the community town hall with Ron Wyden happened at PCC. It was kind of interesting to me that a senator coming to the most populated county would have that small room at PCC. I don't know if any of you tried to go. I did go the following day when he was in Beaverton in Washington County, and it was interesting that another citizen activist, Mary Eng, thinks that she saw an officer who's responsible for the death of James Jahar Perez employed as a city of Beaverton police officer. Those of us who are familiar with the Eric Garner situation, and maybe also the death of Tamir Rice in Cleveland, know that bouncing bad cops can be a problem. So I think that's something as citizens, and especially if you as human rights commissioners, need to look at, making sure that we do a stronger job of removing problematic police, and also we care about all human life, whether it's within our city or not, finding ways to keep police who have problematic records from being in situations where other citizens might be in jeopardy. Thanks, y'all.
Okay, thank you. Is anyone else, I didn't have anyone else sign in, but anyone else interested? Sorry. Okay, I think we're gonna move forward with the OEHR report. First, we're gonna do the.
Thank you, good evening. And I don't know that I really had a report specifically about what's going on, although I don't know since the last time we met that new partners program has been moved to other. And so that program now, with Polo, is now in Oni, is no longer in the office of equity. And so I think it's situated well and settled well, and so the new partners program will be budget is coming up, which is really what I wanted to check in on, and I guess see if there are questions / concerns about the last conversation we had on the budget and HRC's understanding or comfort level with the way the budget is I guess situated in my office, and also how it's going to be allocated as need arises. So it's more of a question than anything else. I just wanted to check in because I'm not sure everyone either understands or is comfortable with or has any questions. So,
Kenya, have you received all the budget pieces? In your new format that you sent?
Right.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
I've not received any.
Okay. So just as a review, and a kind of an aside for this, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kenya sent out a format to committee chairs with a request for current budget information to go back to her. So that's really the process that will need to be followed in order for OEHR to do their thing and for HR things to move forward. So please go ahead and get that to her, and if you need it again, go ahead and let her know.
So how many committee chairs are here besides Sam? Sam and Gail is clear? And then Ashley is public policy?
And CDC.
CDC? Oh, that was?
Yeah, we're voided chair for CDC right
Yeah.
now.
So are folks aware of
I
the,
can do CDC.
of what we're, of the budget figures that we're talking about? Did we talk about it at the last meeting? Did we talk about the BAC?
I think we talked about it a couple of months ago. I think at one point, and it was needed to get the last budget from, I don't have any information on any budget from CPRC in the past, so I don't have anything to really go off of, or a nominating committee. So that's kind of, I'm working from zero right now. So I need that information in order to move forward. So, sorry I haven't gotten it to you. It's my bad, I've been busy doing other things, and I think at one point, I can't remember if it was Damon or I requested from somebody and they don't have it. So if we have that information, then obviously I need to have it.
So basically, any events or public offerings, anything that we plan as a commission or we want to propose as a budgetary item, that first must go through the chair and co-chair, or are we going straight to you before we present it back to the commission?
No, it goes through the chair and co-chair. I mean, I'm not trying to sign off on anything. What I've suggested is that as opposed to saying there's for PCOT and for HRC, that there's $30,000 or $40,000 set aside for the commission just sitting there that doesn't get used, and at the end of the year I've got to reallocate it, that it's going to stay in admin, or most of it will stay in admin, and then as events or the need to allocate is brought from the HRC
to me, then I'll just allocate. But I don't, but my concern is that it's, I can't carry it over. And so, you know, I've been hoping to receive something about this year, about what the expected continuous use of the remainder is that I haven't gotten yet. And so I'm not gonna just set aside another chunk and wait till the end of the budget year next year to reallocate it. And so my hope is that it'll be an admin and then there'll be some presentation of, here's what we plan on. And then as those plans come to fruition, then you do what you do internally and work it, and then, I mean, you can certainly say, here's what we're gonna do, and we'll need this money ahead of time to, A, to do it, that's fine. But that, I mean, we'll just go through that process as opposed to, the expectation that it's automatically just sitting there waiting. I guess is what I'm
So that actually sounded like the second part that Sonji said, which is, if the pool of money is sitting in admin, we're going in and asking for it piece by piece from the office, right? And that's actually what you had suggested, right? Am I hearing that correctly?
Well, but in terms of, you don't have to, I guess.
It doesn't
maybe I
have to necessarily
misunderstood.
come to you first.
No.
It can start with the.
Yeah, you'll start
leadership.
internally and confirm, here's what we're gonna do, here's what we need, here's the budget for it, and then just compensate.
Because I guess my question was, based on what you've shared, if there's 30,000 per se, and you feel that there's a need from an administrative standpoint to use that before we submit our budget, you have the authority to do that. We may be making the assumption that that $30,000 is just widely available, but as things come up, for instance, when we needed new headphones and things of that nature, you had to make those decisions immediately. You couldn't wait
Right.
for our budget. And so I'm trying to get the understanding as to, would it be best to go through Dante to figure that out first?
Well-
Because we don't necessarily know what has been used. We don't
I think it's the
necessarily know
opposite.
that.
So I think the system we're looking at now is we're starting at zero, and if the three committee chairs around here say, I need $5,000, I need $3,000, then our budget would be $8,000, as opposed to saying our budget is $30,000. We know we want to spend $8,000, then we've got 22 left to figure out. So, you see what I'm saying?
I mean, it's kind of a modified zero-based budget.
That's right. So, I mean, I think you need to understand that that's what's going on, as opposed to saying, we have a budget of $30,000 that we're trying to allocate, but we have a budget of zero, and we need to go out and ask for whatever we need.
But no matter what, you have to ask for.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And that budget, is it possible we can get some business cards, just with the mission, like one side? It doesn't have to have our names on it, but on the other side, maybe just the vision and the mission of HRC.
You guys have it.
We should just bring them to every meeting.
Yeah, where are they?
Yeah,
'Cause I've been asking those for
They're
a year and a half.
just coming out of here.
Are they just general cards?
We should just set one on the table.
Yeah, so if you want a card, go ahead and talk to Ken after the meeting.
Or we should just bring them to every meeting and set them on the table.
If you talk to me today, you give me card. Next month, I'll bring them and put them on the table.
So, getting back to the budget, I think what would help me, and maybe others, is if there, and maybe we do this internally, if there's, scheduling and deadlining for when budgeting information needs to happen, get to you before you have to worry about what to do with the bulk. Is that something that could be worked on?
I think I've already asked for that.
Yeah,
You've
already
given us deadline dates
Yeah.
with that?
Yes.
We haven't met.
Okay.
Right.
So I think what has helped in the past has been those things that we know that we're going to definitely need funds for. Emily G. Godfrey is one of those things that we've made I think over the years have made a commitment that we know we're gonna need funding for that. So, in the round table, so those community offerings that are set in stone, we do need to get you a budget and at least project what we think those costs are gonna be. Anything in addition to that would need to be proposed by the chair to the rest of the commission, and ultimately you will make the decision as to whether those funds are available for that particular use.
Yeah, and maybe it's more of budgetary semantics than anything else, because I'm not suggesting that there isn't money that's going to be available. I'm not suggesting that, okay, I'll set aside 10 grand, and if I haven't heard anything new, then I'm gonna spend the rest of it. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm also suggesting that it needs, for my budgeting sense of peace of mind and forecasting, okay, you can't say, oh, well, we're gonna do 2 bus tours this year, and come the end of the year, you haven't done one yet, and there's just a chunk of money sitting there. And so there needs to be a deadline by which the money will be released so I can use it for more other programs that are gonna be functioning. Not functioning, but that we can use those additional funds. And so I guess that's really what I'm saying. So we know Emily Gottfried and some other things that are just, no-brainers that you do, the phone banking and, the other kinds of things. But the other things that are the hoped for, planned for kinds of things will have to be more concretely demonstrated that I need to keep that money for the agency. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's helpful. So, and as we're moving into retreat time, not that I want us to wait to get any information we can to you, but I'd love to help formalize this budget process. So it's something that can carry over year to year.
Is that too late though?
It's too late for now, but what she's saying is, I think that we need
Starting
to,
for
regardless,
next
we
year.
need to develop something so that it's systematic versus.
Right.
So a month ago, the system sheet came out, and what I'd asked you guys for was just what you already have budgeted to just put it into the system sheet in terms of project. If you would just do that, then that would get you brought up to speed.
Yeah.
It'd be good, at least until the next budget, until after the retreat, when you can be more planful about what next year's spending looks like.
I mean, there's 6 months to go in budget, right? But by the end of March, I need to know something.
But you're actually asking us for 2 different things, right? You're asking us to tell you, because you're asking us to tell you what we'll spend in this fiscal year, which ends on June 30th, and then what we would like to spend in the coming fiscal year starting July 1st. Right? Two different things?
Yeah, not only July 1st, but necessarily, but.
Because I know the Luigi Gottfried is gonna be happening in December.
Right.
Yeah, so, I mean, it would be helpful for me to get those concrete numbers of, this is a non-negotiable, here's what we're going to do. It costs us this much to do the human trafficking, it costs us this much to do the phone bank, it costs us this much to do, we're gonna do this community forum on this day, and then we do this money for Emily Gottfried, that's $17,000. Okay, that's a done deal. And then from there, then you can forecast and look at planning events to kind of get a sense of what the rest of that might be. And that also helps me to have an idea of what's a reasonable expectation for what that total number might be.
So there are 2 things for committee chairs. So your committee chairs you're thinking about a period that's about a year and a half. So some of that forecasting are things that we have to say, I'm going to do ostensibly a year or 15 months from now. So that, there's some thinking like that.
I don't need the 15 months now.
We need the 6 months now.
Yeah.
We need the remaining year.
But you didn't say you'd like to have a sense, though. I mean, again, if we're gonna ask you to spend $50,000, you'd like to know that now rather than $20,000.
But
Right.
obviously, at the beginning of the new fiscal year, we should also be providing him a forecast of what we plan on spending the next year, which we definitely.
What I'm saying is we need
provided
that
some
information. That information is going to council.
Yeah, my budget's going to council,
I mean, so-
on the 2nd of February.
That's right, that's right.
I'll have some changes before then.
Is that helpful?
Yes.
Any other issues, concerns with budget and all that?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I think everyone else might know this already, but I was wondering how much was allocated for the past year and the year before?
The year before, there was request was 50. I think what I allocated was, and the request was 50, I think 33 was set aside, and 22 of it was used. And I pulled the rest of it and reallocated it, because it didn't get used. This past year, I think I allocated the same amount of dollars, and a tiny percentage has been spent so far, and I don't know what else is planned for.
So can you, are you going to do would you do the administrative piece of that, or are you relying on the chairs to do that? So for instance, food, events that are taking place outside of the committee, so I think somebody needs to know who's doing that.
So of the 50,000 in the past, did the food for the meetings come from that? Or
Food,
was it
parking,
some
all
other
kinds of
fund?
stuff.
All that's HRC money.
Yeah.
That's right, and so I don't know who's making that list.
I assume that
So,
maybe you,
I-
what Jeff did.
I'm not, Jeff did make those, I'm not making the list, but, I think that would be probably something that I can do.
Or you tell us what the cost is and then we can.
Well, I
just
I
build
think
it out.
it makes more sense for Kenny to essentially go back over the last 2 years and say, here's what, here are outside of the committee chairs, and you might work with the chairs to do it, but what gets spent. Because I think a sense would be there's a fairly high percentage that happens outside the committees. And nobody's, it's responsible for it.
We can pull the budget number on what we spent on food.
Right.
That's.
Or you might have to look at all of them to see, because it's food, parking, I mean, there's a lot of things, I think,
Food, parking.
and I don't know how the budget's laid out,
We're not, but I don't, it's not gonna be separated by CPRC.
Right.
Yeah, no.
We don't want that.
Just general,
Yeah, yeah.
So there may have to be some analysis of that to understand what fits with.
So we
Yeah, we need to move pretty soon.
Was there anything else that you, so I guess the only question that I had, with the New Portlanders moving to Oni, and, you're Ashley at Oni, I don't know, I think there had been some sort of collaboration or collaborative thought or contact that HRC had with New Portlanders, right? I think this was maybe a part of my first few meetings, I don't know if there's action on that, is there something that we need to, like with the shift, is there a different way that we need to relate? I'm
Well,
just
it's
kinda
really
asking.
easy to get a hold of Polo.
No, yeah, for sure, and I assume that would be it, I just didn't know if there was something that was set in stone because of the fact that they were both housed at OVHR. We know Polo, so I think we're fine.
I think it was just the natural overlap or intersectionality of the work. It's a good question, but you know him, I'm guessing.
I just wanted to make sure there
Yeah.
wasn't something we were missing.
So
Yeah,
Polo's
I don't
office
know
is
where.
what?
It's kind of a standalone project, in my impression, so we just call a different phone number.
That's the same post.
Same phone number.
Cool.
Walk in a
Okay,
different
well, never
building.
mind, it didn't make any difference, maybe this card changes.
And the mayor's state of the city is January 26th.
Pardon me?
Mayor's state of the city is January 26th. Equity will be a component of that. And there will be a discussion of overall racial equity goals for the city that the bureaus will be able to aspire to helping the city achieve.
January 26th, at what time?
Noon,
No.
maybe 11:30. City, the city clerk.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we are running into short on time, so I'm gonna try to do what we have to do for leadership transition work and retreat planning in 15. Just really briefly, Shabri and I came on, as most of you know, as executive leadership in a temporary way. And that temporary term ends April 1st, is that right?
That was what we voted in
Okay.
last time.
And I'm completing my 3 years and leaving the commission April 1st. And so I'm looking and I'm very interested in doing what I can to invest my skills and use this role to help complete this leadership transition work that we've been doing. And Shabri and I were talking about the possibility of doing a retreat in March. And I think what we first want to do is to check in about whether or not that would be a good idea, are folks interested, And then assuming it is, I'd love to brainstorm with y'all about what content, what kind of sessions would be helpful to have during that time, and some logistical mapping as well. So we did our last retreat a year ago plus, right? When did we do that?
January.
It was January? Oh, about a year ago. So is that something that folks would be interested in? I definitely think that there's a need.
Yes.
Yes.
My challenge with that time that we spent last year, I think we spent a lot of time on process, which is important. It's vital to retreat and planning. But the pieces that we missed were those pieces that led to ultimately why we are in this position now, is not spending enough time on who's going to help balance that work throughout the year. So I would move to at least push that to the top of the agenda for whatever the retreat looks like, to try to get that piece accomplished first. Because I think our energy together, we get really excited. And the challenge is focusing on the issues that we've had over the course of the year.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I know that this is a part of is finding that out, making sure we know these things and what needs to move to the top. But I think also a part of the conversation I had is that leadership is all of us. That it's not just the chair. And how do we all take leadership and moving something forward? And so leadership is the conversation, but I see leadership as each and every commissioner. And then just kind of what those buckets of work actually look like to move things forward. Whether it's a committee chair who's doing it or a committee member who's doing it, or someone who's not yet on a committee, but something. Leadership, simply because you're here.
And I would consider that a bit of a culture change for HRC, because that has, while that has been the intention, oftentimes that has not been the outcome. So I think talking about the culture of the HRC is going to be very vital in that initial leadership conversation. I admire that that should be the expectation, that when you are part of the commission, that there's an owned leadership seat, whether or not you are the chair or the co-chair. But that has not been the structure of the culture.
Well, part of what we've done is broken out even just like chair, it's a two-leader, chair,
Vice chair.
chair and vice chair were low buckets. Sorry, we did buckets. And instead of it being all these buckets just being had by one person, or maybe being shared or like seconded by that other person, what are buckets like? Does the budget have to happen with the chair? Does that something, does it look like almost like a treasurer, or whether we call it a treasurer, but is that held by an out? What does that really look like? And I think those are simple conversations that we can have, and then it helps to just balance things out. So there's
So if I can just help us kind of shape where we're gonna go with this. So I'm hearing that, yes, it's a good idea, and yes, it's a good idea to do something in March.
I don't know that March works for me.
the entire month
The
of
whole
March.
month?
Well, I might be going to a conference like the first part, and then the second part is spring break, so I'll probably be in town. So,
So in terms of logistics, I'll send out a doodle with general dates for folks to contribute to, and we'll get a feeling for that. I'm hoping I can offer to do it at my home.
I think we're gonna have to do it as a public meeting. I think that we should be cognizant of that.
And the last time we did it, why is that? Why is it important to you that we do it as a public meeting?
Because I think it falls under public meeting laws.
So can you and I work on that? Because
I think my observation from last year's retreat was, I think we all enjoyed having it at someone's home. The challenge was the burden that puts on the homeowner to have to attend to your home. And whether or not you have, you're okay? Whether or not you have a busy home or not, just the liability, all of those things that go into having it at someone's home. So I think that was one of the challenges, that when Linda wrapped up, she was excited to have done that for us, but I think that was one of the concerns that we took away from that. And then the public, that was the other issue that continued to come up, was public meeting law.
Does anybody have other opinions on it? My impression is that we won't have, after talking to Lisa, that we don't think we'll have so much trouble with public meeting law. And I'm curious about other people's thoughts. My thinking is, it'll be much more comfortable to land in a place for a half a day or close to that outside of this building. I'll just shut up now. You were gonna say something.
I was gonna say, if we have it in a public place, first of all, would this retreat and should it, or shouldn't it be in the budget? And if it is, if we do use the budget money to do our retreat, if we have it at wherever, will that constitute as a public meeting versus someone's house? Because well, not obviously, but, so yeah.
So what I'm hearing from Lisa Gramp is it needs to be a public meeting if we're deliberating on making a recommendation to a public body. So we wouldn't be able to talk about those deliberations or what kind of recommendations we want to make. We could talk about all the other things that I think were the strategic stuff. And I'm happy to check in on that, yeah.
I think in terms of it being a public meeting or not, it's a public meeting if we're having a retreat. That's just the nature of what we're doing is public. As long as, well, if we're going to be talking about which initiatives or what came out of the roundtable that the body will be working towards next year. Whether it's at somebody's house or not.
I just said it's not that.
We're not really focusing on that at this point.
If we're deliberating against recommendations that we're pushing forward is when it becomes public meeting.
And wouldn't we be deliberating about what came out of the roundtable?
I feel like the rules have changed in the last couple of years.
The point that I want to make is that it doesn't matter if it's at somebody's house or not, as long as that home isn't closed to the public. So if we were having it at my house and I said, well, you guys can come, but if a member of the public showed up at the door, I'd say, I'm sorry, but you can't come in. Then that's where we don't want to get into that.
It also has to be accessible.
Okay.
Right, and it has to be accessible, so.
Can I suggest that I get more information on that and really see what our parameters are? Because we can decide the location
Later.
next month. Okay. So, I'll send out a doodle, we'll get at least a date, we'll work out the place later. How many hours would be ideal? The full day?
No less than 4, because
Four to.
we have so much to do,
We
guys.
didn't get
I
through
mean,
all of it last time and it was more process focused because we were still sort of building processes, infrastructure to make decisions. This time I'm hoping it'll be more like content and relationship building and planning focused. So.
I'm
Maybe
gonna come up and.
At whatever we're discussing, just give like an hour to whatever topic.
Okay.
And that way, just give us things.
It's 4 hours to a full day.
Is it likely another Saturday?
How long was that last year?
It's 4 hours. We started at about 8.
They should be weekly, not Saturday.
It's only half.
Can we start at 9? Can we start at 9? Can we start at 9?
Because I have a limited vacation and stuff.
Can we start at 9? Not 8.
4 hours for a full day, and then Emmanuel's recommending we do the adding of it once we figure out how long we want for each session. Okay.
Or minimum of 4 hours, yeah, what you say, and then.
Is it consideration all we put on the table of having it on a weekday and not the Saturdays as usual, or just to throw out options? Or
Full day makes it harder for everyone to be working. I don't know, is there anyone who wants to take off work? Or you want it to be part of
Like,
it?
I want it to be.
Can you
part
not
of
switch
our-
out a day though? Could you not like it not come in on a
Well,
Tuesday?
probably not, because I'm not 100%.
Well.
Well, we have to make decisions for us to, weekends work best for us. I would say we need to do
We're
weekend.
volunteers over here.
Yeah.
Work back right now.
Yeah, so,
I'm okay with weekends, but I guess.
is there anyone who has trouble with weekdays? I'm sorry, with weekend?
I do only.
during March Madness, yes.
Yeah, but none of us will be there unless that's what we're doing.
I like weekends, I just wanna know ahead of time because every other weekend I have them mocked out.
Yeah.
And then every Wednesday, and then also Tuesday or Monday and Friday I have off now. So either one of those days are fine, but just if it's a weekend, I just need no plan time because I have to stick to my parenting schedule,
Okay,
which has caused me to be absent in the past.
yeah, so we wanna I'll work on getting our time down really soon. So it sounds like Saturday in March? Okay.
I mean, you guys don't need me to be there, so I can,
I was
We
gonna say,
want-
something we can talk with Dante on and how we can maybe flex something or make it work.
and some of it is my own issue, like I have other things that I have to do on the weekends.
Okay, so we'll hope
Did
that
she
you
have
can
the
work it
case?
out, and if not, we'll have to get along without you. Okay,
Then I can get Jeff this stuff in.
a Saturday in March. Any other logistics you guys can think of?
Do you have an outside facilitator or just somebody internally?
We don't. That's something to think about. We can put that in the mix. Does anybody feel that that's very important?
Yeah, but we can't do it, yeah.
Yeah.
Some of us are trained facilitators though, right?
I think it would be good for you
Takes
to be
away from our
part of it,
participation,
right, yes, yeah.
big time.
So maybe can we do that, since we do have budget, can we talk about, I mean, really, if we're gonna get this done, let's do a facilitator so that you are not taken out of the actual perspective of getting it done. And then a location that's comfortable for a full day, meaning, sounds like probably breakfast and lunch and other different locations that host those things. Pardon me?
We're doing a
Full day Saturday, at the minimum 4 hours is what we're saying, and so depending upon what we come up with.
Mercy Court has a nice room, and it's like, I think 4 hours for $200 or 400 hours. They have a projector, they have
400.
everything, or vice versa. Whatever I said.
There's also, there's many places, but yes, so
I could get the
comfortable
Northeast
and
Coalition Ambulance for free.
us not having to facilitate. Yes, I do. So that we can participate.
That's right, we can do any of those. Same thing with CNN.
You guys did
We can do
a really nice job of getting resolution responsibilities facilitators for the
Yeah.
round table. Seems like a relationship, it makes sense to have them
And I work
come in
there,
and
so.
do this.
Oh,
And
Yeah.
also a facilitator would like put it down Mark Fulop, since he's familiar with us, and he already
Yeah.
the strategic plan.
So my take on getting an outside facilitator, I think it's a great idea, particularly as a neutral person. It adds extra work
Yeah.
to ramp that person up, and they're gonna tend to be less embedded and fully knowledgeable, intimate with what we're doing.
But I would like, I think the better perspective would be to have you as a full participant and not as a facilitator. I think that outweighs it at this point. It does create work, but we need you, everyone as a full.
It's healthier for the group, for everybody who's in the
So
group.
maybe Mark, is somebody here, I don't know if Mark is.
Yeah, he's familiar with
He's
it,
from
so
CPRC.
yeah.
Oh, that's,
But he also did our strategic plan, so.
The HRC.
Okay, so are we ready to move on to content? We're passing out, or we have passed out, this is the leadership transition note that we worked on. Maybe we start with more leadership content. So basically, this is what work we did over a couple of meetings, and that had goals of helping make HRC a more functional, fluid, less executive committee heavy commission. And that's still in process. So that's definitely, as you were asking, that's definitely something we want to prioritize, I'm hearing, for this retreat. So, I mean, I just sent this out as a guide. Is there anything specifically you'd like to be covered for that leadership session?
I think shared responsibility and leadership of everybody, I think we were talking about that, but was that different?
We've got every commissioner as a leader,
Sorry, can't see.
shared responsibility.
I think it's just a quick overview of what actual buckets we have, right? There are buckets that are chair buckets, but there are buckets that are within committees, understanding A, what we have, and B, how those are who is accountable for those, and it should be not just one person.
Yeah, after doing the chairship for a little while, my sense is, at this point, we need to expand official responsibilities.
That's what.
I'm mimicking, kind of reiterating what you're saying, yeah, but I mean officially too.
That's what this
Yeah.
conversation should be about.
Yeah.
So I want to, if possible, when we're all together at this retreat, talk about like actual ways to change the way we function, maybe even the way we're structured to facilitate that. Like a very small but real example is when we meet all together, actually having time for our committees to meet, instead of all of this process, talking at each other stuff for hours. I think there's a way to update and like make key decisions quickly, but also protect at least half of our time to do core work.
So, yeah.
So monthly core work. All right, how to restructure the meetings, yeah, that's in this document, yeah. It won't get lost, yes.
I'm trying to be polite and raise my hand, I shouldn't shout. You know, I think one of the opportunities that we can take advantage of during the retreat is some asset mapping. Seeing that we have new commissioners joining us, I think there's this, unfortunately, it's a very extensive assumption that we all have had the same leadership experiences, and that's not the case oftentimes. And to set people up for success, because ultimately that's what we all want when we're here, to be successful, is to really understand what assets are people bringing so that they can shine in their leadership ability. And I had a hard stop, literally.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, great.
We don't have that much time left in the meeting, and I can go and do this, but can I, or could we do like not a doodle, but like a survey monkey or something like that? And I'd be willing to like draft it or whatever.
A survey monkey that fills this out.
I mean, I think people can kind of prioritize what they really want to talk about, or I mean, have a box for other communications. At least for me, the way I process things is like, if you want to
Yeah.
think about it, it's not.
So do you want to take what we end up with here and move it into a survey?
Yeah.
That sounds great to me.
Did we do that the last retreat, or was that the strategic plan? Remember?
I don't know. I don't know.
I don't think we did it.
Okay, any final things on leadership? And I think I see this as actually leadership and participation. So for me, what I'm seeing is what can we do that will allow people to be their best participatories, to participate the best. You know, ideally, not even ideally, there's an expectation that in addition to coming to these meetings, people are actively engaged in committees. So if that's not happening for individuals, what needs to happen so it does? Right. Other leadership stuff? Yeah.
What would, I don't, maybe this exists, but if it doesn't, then it would address some of the asset issues that Sonia was just bringing up. If there was like a list of commission members and a brief bio about each person that could be, we could all have, and maybe could be given out if it was appropriate.
So I would put that in something for visibility, profiles. So I think that's something that our staff people have been trying to get online for us, and we just aren't providing it. I believe they've been asking us for photos and bios for a little while.
Okay, yeah.
All right, so moving on from leadership, anything else for visibility that we want to look at? This to me is communications. I feel like we've had a communications committee gap.
Yeah.
So maybe some conversation about how that needs to be created. And how they would work with OEHR. Yeah.
In the past, has the Discovery Committee and the Visibility Committee worked together? They seem like
Is that CDC?
Discovery.
Is that what,
Yeah.
communications? Is that the two
No.
different CDC?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because discovery is more what's happening in the community coming in towards us, and communications is what have we deliberated and how are we getting it out?
But, yeah, but I think Discovery in terms of like, I mean, visibility in terms of the community actually knowing who you are will go hand in hand with
Yeah.
discovering or engaging
Right.
in different ways. So it seems very,
Yeah, I think visibility happens naturally out of our discovery activities.
Yeah, and the committees also, I mean, they touch on each one in a way. Discovery was kind of more of, the CDC was kind of more of.
Anything else about visibility or anything else? Yeah.
Well, it seems to me like maybe a communication plan for I don't know if that's an issue here, but, you know, making the work of this group more visible, which, you know, I don't know, but maybe a couple of steps of things that we could be doing.
So I think we'll be fleshing out here, because there is a communications committee, I think there is vacant.
Okay,
Which would be exactly a place where that would happen.
okay, all
That's
right,
the question I asked the engineers.
okay, yeah, yeah.
So like reestablishing, and, yeah, and then setting.
Just some, you know, ideas about what could be done.
Okay.
Can I also ask, I mean, since I'm new to this committee, I want to get up to speed, and I also want to have a clear sense of what it is I should be doing, and also what I need to learn. And so I'm wondering if, I mean, you know, there's not exactly a job description, right, for this, but I know that at least one organization has this thing called Advocates College, which is a really interesting idea of kind of training people who are doing kind of similar work on what it is that everybody needs to know. So, you know, for example, things like how to frame issues, and maybe a little bit of media training and how to present them to the public in ways that are going to be helpful. So I don't know where that would fall, but I would be interested to hear from those of you who have been on this for a while, what you see as the skills or the things that people need to know,
Yeah.
so that we could know what those are, and maybe also if there are gaps.
Right. Okay, thank you. So, I mean, I consider that an orientation, an expanded orientation. I think
Can I ask
that's,
a question, is Advocates College something that is universal, or is it just for one particular group, or is it something that we can like?
It's put on, I think it's by the Oregon Housing Network or something. It was really interesting. It's an internal organization, and they do this training program for people who are doing work in a variety of different fields. And I've never seen anything like that, but I thought, wow, that's a great idea. And it's something I would like to attend, but they only do it once a year. So it also seems to me like, you know, if we could do an internal something like that ourselves, that would also strengthen the idea of having everybody be in the leadership position, because everybody would be
yeah,
up to speed and confident.
right.
I mean,
Yeah,
even
and
an
then-
orientation packet would be helpful.
Yeah, there's an orientation.
Oh, there is.
Okay, so that also, I see that also as part of, maybe part of communications committee working, maybe communications and policy, working on that together. So it's 6:35, do we want to continue this some more, maybe 10 more minutes, or do we want to close up and finish up the very last bits of our agenda here?
Well, are there other pieces that we might be able to add to this, to the survey monkey? Is that?
That's what,
the plan is?
yeah.
Yeah, we could flesh this out some more with Rebecca's help on the survey monkey. If people really feel like they'll just be able to have time to add to it.
And I don't know if this is more work, but if there was like a small group that wanted to meet before the next week or sometime.
Yeah, that's gonna be a requirement, so, I can help out, but I can't, and I don't know what your availability is, but I can't take the full bulk of this. So if this is gonna happen, we need to identify who's gonna be able to take the leadership role with these sessions. Right? So maybe I should ask, is anybody interested in picking any of these up at this point?
Is that something we can add to the survey monkey as well, just to?
Yeah, if we feel like people will participate.
Well, if they don't, then they're gonna have what has come from others who have participated.
Yeah, I don't think it's completely makes sense. I mean, the
Right.
question is, do we want to try to complete this tonight, and then how do you want to get through the process?
Well, another question, if you guys are looking at an outside facilitator, wouldn't you hand this over to the
Yeah.
facilitator to do?
Yeah.
And not?
Yeah, but we haven't decided about the facilitator yet.
Okay.
So we got a lot of questions running. I think the first question was, do we want to give more time to this at the whiteboard here, or close it up and move it to SurveyMonkey?
Can I just clarify, I thought we did make a decision as to the fact that we wanted to use a facilitator. Did we not, were we not there?
What I have here is that you guys decided outside facilitator, potentially Mark Phillip.
Okay, I just missed it.
That's what I heard.
Sorry, I thought they had already done that, so that would help, because then you would take such stuff that
Yeah,
Rebecca's able to get from the cert.
yeah.
That was weird, so, the survey, then, yes, okay, I think we're.
So
Okay, so-
whatever comes from here, or from the Survey Monkey, would then go to whoever, but you guys need to decide on who's gonna be a facilitator.
Yep.
Yeah, that'll.
There's either, I think Mark Fulop is cool, there's also Resolutions Northwest, because we have that partnership, so.
So who's interested in the facilitator angle and can work on that, work on getting that person on board.
I can check with RW,
Okay.
since I'm already here anyway.
So Rebecca, myself, and Emmanuel?
Yeah, we're in the same building.
That's just figure out who's gonna facilitate, or
Well,
that's
no, I
fleshing
think
some of this
that's, I
out?
think that's fleshing some of this out too.
Oh, I wanna be part of that.
Oh, great,
Natalie.
okay.
So 4 of us, anyone else? Okay. So we'll do a pre-meeting to, there you go. And you can help do this part, thank you, Rebecca, to help move this forward, and your action item will be connecting. Awesome, and then we'll come in and yay. Is that,
Sounds really great. Yeah, I'm sorry we didn't have more time to do all of that here together. Cool.
we're past time, but it looks like the last things that we're looking at, Amy, follow-up business, action taken, committee and task force reports, emerging issues. I have one issue to announce at the end, but.
So, any follow-up business? Kenya, is there, so Diallo and Sam were working on an action item. Could you give us an update with that? What happened with that?
He's gone, I tried reaching out to him 3 times about that, and then the last time I told him to reach out to me about it, he never did. So
Okay.
we haven't discussed it, and that's why the letter hasn't gone out.
And remind me of the topic of the topic of the letter.
It was on because of the protests that are happening around the nation and stuff that's happening in the city of Portland, HRC wanted to have a statement on it, but we couldn't come to agreement. And so, part of the coming to agreement was setting up a meeting to talk about it more, but failed connections.
So this is indicative of what we talked about before, action not occurring because people aren't putting it together.
Okay, thanks. Kenya, any other follow-up things that are on your?
There are no new follow-up things,
Okay.
as far as I know, are ongoing as they were last stated. And most of them are Diallo's, he's the liaison to most of those items, so. they can-
On the letter?
All the items like, following up with Cameron, going forward with, I can never get this right,
Oh, Fallon Dafa?
Yeah, following DAFA,
Yeah.
yeah, those things. You volunteer for basically all the follow-up stuff.
Yeah, so actually, there's not much to say about Fallon Dafa. They're against organ harvesting, but it's in another country and can't really do very much about it. But I'll do more research on it for sure.
I mean, the last time we heard was that you would contact them and let them know that that's outside of our purview, essentially.
So I'll do that. With Cameron Witten, the Oregon Center for Human Rights is actually going really well. He has created a speakers board that includes people from various organizations, and I mean, right now they're in the stages of just starting their micro summits, which are just mini parties to talk about this before the actual fundraising and setting it up. And so, but it's moving forward and it's going really smoothly right now. Cameron Witten is an awesome organizer, so.
Okay, so anything else that we need to know in terms of action? Anybody need help with anything? Okay. So what committees have things to report that we all need to know about? Do any committees have things to report that we all need to know about?
I actually do.
Okay.
Kenya and I are meeting on Wednesday, January 21st, to talk about a Know Your Rights video production. So if anybody's interested in being involved with that, it'll be at 1 p.m. here on January 21st.
What is it again?
A Know Your Rights video production setup. We're scheduling a meeting with community partners, law enforcement, including CPRC, and then we're gonna get actors and actresses from these groups, At the meeting, we'll split up into work groups to focus on scripts and find roles, doing actual know your rights facts, and then another group for recruitment of actors and actresses. And then after that, we'll do a casting call to community members with certain demographics, and do the video and do the editing process. So that's overview.
And advocates around the consultants on respectful and dignified responses for women of color.
I will add that.
Maybe I should explain it. So
Please,
the
yeah.
community members that I've engaged with, which wasn't a big intentional group, but the few that have, come in and talked to me about this, one of their biggest concerns is that there is a way for men of color to exercise their rights in a respectful and dignified way that doesn't escalate the situation. And so we were looking at getting some people in to consult on that, and one of the groups is Joanne's group because they've done some work on it, but we wanted to get a broader consensus across the spectrum. So we'll be working on that as one of the additional groups of work that will be taking place on the 21st.
Thank you. Okay,
What time
any,
is that? It's gonna be at 1 p.m. here on Wednesday, January 21st.
okay, any emerging issues or final announcements?
I do actually have some that I put into my calendar. There's stuff going on in schools, school to prison pipeline stuff that, and actually no, I wouldn't actually connect it to that, but parents are getting charged when their kids miss school, and a lot of these parents happen to be low income, and so it ends up hurting them more. This is a topic that a few people have talked about and trying to stop it because it's really detrimental to these families, because it's charging them, it's like a fee for them, and they're already low income. So there's that. I wanted to just bring it up.
Is it happening in Portland Public Schools?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
Can you say what it is again?
It's, I don't know the actual policy name, but it's a policy that when kids miss school, the parents get charged for money.
Truancy policy.
Right, the truancy policy. And most of these parents are from low-income backgrounds, so it's really hurting these families. And so there's that. And then also, I just wanted to put it on our minds to keep immigration in our mind, because we don't have anybody from the demographic to really speak about that, and so wanted to make sure we're not forgetting it.
And particularly with those on the nominating committee.
So is the Moldova Youth Commission looking at that truancy policy issue because they have have you linked up with Andrea?
I need to, I know her.
Because I'm her office mate, so do you want to?
Yeah, please, yeah, I would love to go there.
So that would actually be a good thing for the office of actually getting more rights too. I don't know if that's something that Kenny you want to bring to the office. That's the kind of thing that they tend to speak at that level. Whether Dante's aware of or not.
I don't think the office is aware of it.
Yeah.
I'll be willing to sit in on that also. Really, I won't take too much time because I work in the Portland Public School District, and by way of push out, all these other exclusions. Quickly, I was hired, fired, and retired again. I was out of work for 5 months because of my background 18 years ago, so I'll be willing to add my info along with Sheila Warren and all that, because I'm living it right now. So.
Andrea, what's your last name?
Marquez.
Yeah, I put both of their names down on this.
We could just meet in our office.
Cool.
Or we can come to you if she's cool.
I'll come
You
to
work
you.
with Andrea?
I'm coming.
So she's three notes.
No, different Andrea Bell, but yeah.
Kevin, she used to be my teacher at school.
Yeah, yeah.
So, one of the last things that I had, I was supposed to talk about it last meeting, I totally forgot. Arun Gandhi is going to be here January 20th, at the Oregon Historical Society, and,
What time is it?
there's a, this isn't a flyer, so I will go ahead, at 6 p.m. So January 20th at 6 p.m. Oregon Historical Society, Arun Gandhi is going to be here and be speaking. The committee who was bringing him here previously asked about folks who were interested in sponsoring his coming and being here. One of my questions I had was, I didn't even know, A, do we do that? B, if we do, how does that happen? And how do we bring it in front of all members to make those decisions as to how we decide to sponsor or not sponsor things? Right now, I think we're too late for this, and I think we have to go through a full budget process. Anyone who's done this or sponsored something before, do you guys know how we've done this, or what we've done, or what the precedence has been?
It sounds like a good tree agenda.
Well, for the, yes, for future stuff.
For the process, yeah.
Yeah, we've sponsored usually nothing.
But yeah, I don't know if we sponsor like a speaker, I mean, we could, you just have to run into this group and.
Well, he's already gonna be here, I think she was asking for like multiple sponsorships to essentially like, you know, cover what.
I think we've moved away from that spending wise, but, we've done that.
So it's a conversation we can have there, it's too late at this point for this year,
Okay.
but you guys know about it.
Yeah, I mean, the spending would be under visibility, just like any other sponsorship.
What's the places?
Oregon Historical Society.
And this is Arun?
Arun Gandhi, yes, Mahatma Gandhi's
Yeah.
grandson.
Okay, cool. I've been adding these events to the HRC calendar as well. So this event is on the HRC calendar. The event that, the Merle Evers event is on the HRC calendar. And so is the Mayor's Day of the City.
Because it's Google shared calendar.
Is that
So-
in the website?
We can share it with you once you are.
Okay.
Yeah, once you're on that part.
It's an internal,
Yeah.
shared, okay.
Yes.
Okay, any last final emerging issues or announcements? Yes.
Just off of what Shabri was saying, the sponsorship piece, something actually came to my mind when Dante was speaking, is that there's this large allocation of money for 2 years that we haven't been using. And just made me think of like, if, you know, part of the visibility and part of the investment in the community and discovery piece, all of that could kind of go, and the advocacy piece, could be investing into the community. And so if we had like a small, a sponsorship program where we had, you know, like a little committee that reviewed the applications monthly and put it on the website. I don't know if this has been discussed before, but it just seems like if we really want to engage with the community and we want to invest in the community and build capacity, that would be something that we would look into.
Offering scholarships for.
Or just, not even just scholarships, but like if somebody, like there's an event, sponsorship.
Oh, wait for them to request
Okay,
sponsorship.
thank you, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I have a couple, one announcement, one suggestion. The first is a suggestion, like, up to this point, people have been very tired. You guys are all volunteers, and so my suggestion is that as you all move towards retreat and creating new ideas and new agendas, that you be very mindful of the fact that you guys are volunteers, and that there's a lot of work to be done, and not a lot of people to do that work. And I would say just to try to stay grounded in a sense of realistic expectations, and just managing expectations around how much can get done, what all we can do, and the real capacity of the commission. And keeping in mind what the initial point or purpose of the commission is.
I think speaking to that, we had an executive meeting conversation with Dante, or maybe it was just a chair meeting anyways, but we talked about if there is something that we need to do, i.e. facilitating something so that we don't have to attempt to do that and not be a part of it, that is something that there is budget for so that we can actually make movement. So I think just keeping those things in mind, just like, yeah, if there's something where we can have someone help or a consultant or something like that, then let's continue to think about those as far as budget perspectives.
And the last thing is that the next HRC meeting will be February 4th. And so you guys can put on calendars, plan for it, go on.
Okay, does somebody on that retreat team have this, or shall I get it down?
I took a picture. I also wrote it down.
Is it possible with the Survey Monkey to have an open-ended question?
Absolutely.
She did say that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
great, thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for staying a little later.
Meeting is adjourned.
Meeting's adjourned.